the big topic of the sermon today is, how do we find God's will? How do we find God's will? God's will is a little more complex than just that. Theologians see that the Bible describes three aspects of God's will. Here's the first aspect. It's called the sovereign will. The sovereign will of God. God is the sovereign ruler of the universe. For instance, when he says, let there be light, light appears. He issues decrees, and his sovereign will is accomplished. And it's sometimes called the hidden will of God because we're usually unaware of this aspect of his will until it has already happened. Within his sovereign will, he either causes things to happen or he allows things to come to pass. Nothing takes him by surprise. Number two is the revealed will of God. It includes everything that he has chosen to reveal to us through special revelation. What I mean by that is he spoke through prophets or he spoke through apostles and he had them write it down and he preserved his word. The revealed will of God is something that all humanity is obligated to obey. But it's also the part of God's will that we have the ability to disobey. But this is also where human choice comes into play. This is our responsibility, is to align our will with his. And finally, the last aspect of God's will is his dispositional will. This deals with his attitude. An example of his dispositional will, for instance, in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4, it says that he wants all people to be saved and come to a knowledge of truth. But obviously, not all are saved. And so this is why it's a little complex, because he has this dispositional will towards the lost, but at the same time, his sovereign will goes against the dispositional will. So even though this is his disposition, he allows for differences between his sovereign will and his disposition. To discern God's will in your life, we have to follow the path that the apostles took here. Here's your steps. Step number one, gather all the information. Do the homework, right? Don't just idly sit by hoping that God's will is just going to hit you in the face. Whatever you're pondering, ask yourself, well, what does the Bible say about it? How does this direction or this decision, how does it affect my mission that Jesus gave my life? Ask yourself, what does common sense say? What does your family say? How about this one? What does your church say? If you're facing a big decision in your life, this is why we need each other. The second step, seek God in prayer. You see, while God has given us minds and powers of reason, his ways are higher than our ways. And so pray to the Lord Jesus. Pray to the Jesus that's on the throne, that's orchestrating everything that's still happening to even to this day. Pray to him. Ask him to make the answer clear in your life. And finally, the third step, this one's a hard one. Trust God's sovereignty. Make a decision and go with it. This is part of being bold. After you've done all the homework, after you prayed through, Christians, we don't need to just be waiting for the wind to tell us what's next. Be bold. This is faith at work. This is faith at work. We do our homework. We seek wisdom. We commit it to prayer. And then we go out on a limb. We go. And sometimes, guess what? We're going to mess up. But God's grace will cover that. Because the Father knows our heart. And he knows that I'm desiring to please him. And he's not going to leave us stranded.